Spatial Media presents, in conjunction with AMPTV, a celebration of the third annual 2022 National Black Estheticians Week, hosted by Spatial. Join us day one, February 22nd, 2022, as we feature a discussion with panelists Dr. Adamson, a dermatologist and assistant professor at the Dell Medical School at the University of Texas at Austin. Tereska James, founder of Brown Skin 2. Lisa Van Bakken, owner of Skin Script. Pamela Springer, owner of Global Skin Solutions. So celebrate and learn with us during this National Black Estheticians Week. NBEW will be from February 22nd through the 28th. But first, let's introduce NBEW founder Tiffany Medwa.
Tiffany Medwa is a licensed esthetician and the founder of Spatial, which is a directory where clients can find licensed Black estheticians in their area. She is also a senior-level copywriter with more than 10 years of writing, editing experience, producing compelling copy for high-profile brands and companies such as Mattel, Hot Topic, and ABC. When working for ABC's The View, Tiffany was asked by the show's makeup artist, Eve Pearl, to write a piece about lipstick for her book, Plastic Surgery Without the Surgery, The Miracle of Makeup Techniques. Tiffany was even featured in the book, and if you squint hard enough, you can see two tiny photos of her on its cover. Tiffany is passionate about skincare and the aesthetics community at spashow.com.
We want to go ahead and talk directly with Tiffany Medwa of Spatial. You got to stay with the Spatial. I'm telling you, that's the way it's said. We went over this while we were waiting, right? But she's going to explain all about that, and that's going to be one of the first things I ask her. So we're so glad that we could get you on the program today, because this is your show, Spatial. Am I saying it right? You just got to correct me if I'm wrong.
Spatial with Spatial.
Thank you. Can you explain that a little bit more? We want to make sure you have the highlight on that and telling us more about Spatial, where you were going with that, the vision, and why it's said that way. We just want an understanding. That's all. Break it down for us.
So, Julia, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for your support. You are the angel who has really given this wing. So thank you. Thank you for holding it down.
No problem.
So Spatial came out of prayer. I really wanted to find a name for the Black Estheticians Directory, and I did some research and I read the best practices that the Yelp founders suggested. And so they suggested when you're coming out with a name, especially when you're trying to find a website domain name, to have something that's memorable, easy, and one word. So I thought, really hard, and I wanted to have something to do with spas or facials. And so Spatial came to me around 3:00 in the morning. I woke up and just kind of had that on my tongue, and did some research, and it was available. And I kind of thought, okay, when you are looking for a Black esthetician or, someone who really understands melanated skin, you want to be for sure. You want to find someone who is certain and, even has a personal understanding of melanated skin. And so I thought back to, for show, how we often say for show. And so I thought, okay, with Spatial or for show, when you go on this directory and you can find someone who at least personally understands your skin and who's working towards, either getting a skin of color certification or, is just really well versed in the knowledge of melanin and all the complex nuances that come to play with darker skin tones. So that's a little backstory with Spatial. Oftentimes people say Spatial, and I'm like, okay, it's Spatial. So that's why I started spelling it with the second S as capitalized, just to kind of give that emphasis on the show part.
Totally makes sense. Like I said, I was just, getting the whole semantics down. Let's talk about NBEW, okay? Let's talk about what that means, why that's so important, and why we're celebrating this week.
So NBEW came out of, again, prayer, and Katina Gilmore, she has the Best Association, which is, it started off as a Facebook group and now it just became a nonprofit recently. And so when I was looking for more licensed Black estheticians, I really couldn't find any in my area. And then I went on Facebook and I found this whole group. Hers was the first kind of Black estheticians Facebook group that I found. And so just us developing a relationship and having conversations, just really strictly on Messenger on Facebook, I asked her if she thought the National Black Estheticians week or day would be something that people would support. I really wanted, there were just, so many trailblazing estheticians and Black estheticians doing amazing things in the skincare space. And I really just wanted to honor us. I knew about Pamela Springer, who is a master esthetician. She's a rock star esthetician. And, just really wanted to have a day or a space to really honor and support us. And so it just kind of started off as this conversation. I had no idea how to make that happen. And Katina was very supportive of it. And so at first we thought, well, maybe we'd have a day. And then we're like, no, let's have a whole week, especially because so many of, so much of the industry didn't seem to really understand our needs, or if they did understand our needs, they didn't really know maybe how to make a way to make it happen. So I thought we could have this kind of unifying front where we could all come together as like one voice to say, hey, we exist. And, a lot of people don't even know what an esthetician is in general, let alone a Black esthetician. And so it was really, really, truly just to raise the visibility.
I tell you what, it's an important conversation to have. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation for the whole week. I know it's been a lot of work for you, but much needed. Wouldn't you say? This is so much of a platform that's needed for us to discuss skin health, especially with people of color.
Definitely. I think so. And I think, with Sephora and Ulta and, so many of the beauty brands now really taking a stand and really, really making visible efforts to support and showcase Black beauty and our needs. I think that hopefully the rest of the industry will follow. I think people are becoming more comfortable talking about the conversation and know that it's not, anything about us being exclusive, but just hey, like we're celebrating ourselves. We want to celebrate the whole industry, and just again, just that visibility aspect and just saying, hey, this is who we are. This is what we need. Can you help us? Or how can you point us in the right direction? Or how can you be our allies in, helping us to create space and to create products and tools that will benefit us as a community and a skincare group.
Awesome. And speaking of those who are coming out to help and corporations, can you tell us about the donor? We were looking earlier in the program as we were just waiting along here, looking at the advanced melanoma research in honor of NBEW, and there's already $2,500 up in there. I'm just saying, right? Yes. $2,500. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Can you tell us, and I know we're going to have Dr. Adamson on to really talk about the research and why it's important, but can you just give a shout out to the donor and who else is given, just so we know?
Absolutely. So I'm so excited. SkinScript, when I first graduated from aesthetic school, SkinScript was the first professional. I went to the Long Beach Skincare Conference and I met Lisa Van Bakker, the owner, and she was so friendly and, spoke to me one-on-one. She invited me over to her booth and I was just so impressed by her documentation and the products and reading all her literature. And so when I started practicing in a spa, the spa was not using her products. And we had a number of skin of color clients. And so I really wanted to have something that had results, that was a results-oriented brand. And I had used SkinScript before on myself and I saw the results. And so I asked the spa to get those products, and the client really, love the products. And for years, I have been a big proponent and supporter of Lisa. I had a skincare blog some years back, and I called Lisa on the phone at her office, and she got on the phone and chatted with me, and has always been very, very supportive. So this donation of $2,500, the very first donation, is from SkinScript. And I couldn't be more pleased and honored, and it just kind of feels full circle. And, my mentor, Pamela Springer, she knows Lisa very well. They've worked together. Pamela was also Lisa's teacher. So it just all feels very full circle. And, I'm just so happy because so many estheticians of color love SkinScript because it really works for our skin. And just to have her support is just such a blessing, and I'm just very, very honored. So thank you, SkinScript. And I hope that we as a community, because SkinScript is so supportive of us, if we can back them up and also support the Tanya A. Heyman Melanoma Fund, which is a phenomenal fund. And so Dr. Adewole will be talking about that. And so I really hope that we can just support this fund and get to $10,000, if not more.
This is an awesome event, Tiffany. I'm just saying. And I'm so glad that people will get to watch this later. So if you're not watching us live, we might share the video with you. I don't know. Don't worry. AMPTV will take care of that. And we will have the Katina Gilmore on, who you were just speaking of just a moment ago. She'll be introducing the doctor. And so we will have her on shortly. Any final thoughts that you want everyone to know about NBEW, everyone to know about Spa Show, anything else that we might have left out?
Yeah, I'm just grateful to the whole entire community, on Instagram, on Facebook, the messages that I receive, through the blog. Just happy to really connect with everyone. And yeah, if I can do anything, please reach out. I'm happy to support. I'm still growing, still learning about how to make this event happen. And just again, Julia, grateful to you since you are an expert in this space. So yeah, just really great, really, really grateful for all of the speakers and the sponsors and people just putting it in their stories. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Like I said, awesome event, and we're going to let you rest a bit and we're going to get started. And we want to show this video first. And again, this is on Spa Show. You can go to the news portion of it and see the article for yourself. But we have the audio version of that and also video version of that. And well, I didn't get to talk about Spa Show radio. You will be able to listen to it through the radio. But we are first going to have this particular vlog, is what we call it, where NBEW took a sharper focus on melanoma awareness for this Black History Month, and with, of course, with the University of Texas at Austin. And this is also in honor of the Tanya A. Heyman Melanoma Research Fund. So we're going to let you watch that, and then we're going to have Katina Gilmore, who's going to come in and introduce Dr. Adamson. Don't worry, she's sitting there. Say hi, Katina, so that they know you're actually here. She's there. There she is. She's like, I'm waiting for my part so I can be done. I get you, Katina. But we're so glad that you're patient, and the doctor is also here. So we're excited to also hear from him. But first, let's go ahead and get into that very important news piece that gives us a very intense look at melanoma in people of color. NBEW takes a sharp focus on melanoma awareness this Black History Month, along with UT Tanya A. Heyman Melanoma Research Fund. For decades, some African Americans have believed the myth that they cannot get skin cancer due to the melanin in their skin, a pigment responsible for their skin tone that naturally protects them from the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun. However, it was pointed out in the Melanoma Research Alliance that even among people with the darkest skin, melanin is still inadequate to protect one from the aging and hyperpigmentation effects of the sun. It is true that people of color have a lower risk of developing skin cancer than Caucasians, who are 20 times more at risk. Unfortunately, Additionally, when skin cancer develops in people of color, it is often diagnosed at a more advanced stage, making it more difficult to treat, according to the American Academy of Dermatology Association. In fact, Black people are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with advanced stage melanoma and 1.5 times more likely to die from melanoma than white people, duly noted in the observational study Malignant Melanoma in African Americans. To some, it is a surprising fact that cancer of the skin is by far the most common of all cancers according to the American Cancer Society. Melanoma accounts for only about 1% of skin cancers, but causes a large majority of skin cancer deaths. In the United States for 2022, it has been estimated that 42,600 women will be diagnosed with melanoma. 2,570 of those women will die from it. The American Academy of Dermatology Association pointed out an unsettling discovery. When skin cancer develops in people of color, it's often in a late stage when diagnosed. This can be deadly when the person has melanoma, a type of skin cancer that can spread quickly. Treatment for any type of skin cancer can be difficult in the late stages. This was the terrible fate of African American Tanya Heyman, who at age 44 was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma in 2015. She passed away from the sudden and unexpected diagnosis just 2 months later. Her sister, Tereska James, confirmed that they both were raised with the misinformation that Black people were protected by melanin in their skin from skin cancer. Even after her sister's death, the scenario seemed too unbelievable for Tereska losing her sister to skin cancer. However, this fueled Tereska to debunk the skin cancer rumor. She soon became an advocate for melanoma awareness and prevention thereafter, as quoted in the Melanoma Research Alliance news article. Tereska's passion to bring awareness to the masses about the risk of melanoma in people of color was so strong that she created the melanoma prevention focus Brown Skin Too. Tereska and her family would continue to share Tanya's story with people, debunking the myth that people of color do not get melanoma. So the vision evolved further into the Tanya A. Heyman Melanoma Research Fund, which was shared with Dell Medical School at the University of Texas at Austin. Dr. Adamson is a board-certified dermatologist and assistant professor in Dell Medical School's Division of Dermatology and Dermatologic Surgery. Dr. Adamson's research focuses on patterns of care for melanoma, especially among people of color who are often underrepresented in research, which contributes to misunderstandings about risk factors and diagnosis that often delay treatment. From the words of Dr. Adamson.
Melanoma is a type of cancer. Specifically, it's a type of skin cancer that can develop just about anywhere on your body. Melanomas can develop from moles, also known as pigmented lesions. And they can also develop on sites on your body that don't have any moles at all. If melanoma is caught too late, it can potentially be fatal from traveling to different parts of the body. Melanoma is largely thought of as a disease that primarily affects people that self-identify as white. This is true, but melanoma can actually affect anybody of any race. That includes Black, Hispanic, Asian, etc. Usually when melanoma is diagnosed in those populations, it is caught at a later stage, and therefore those patients tend to have worse outcomes when compared to those in the white population. And this is what we call a health disparity, which exists in melanoma. We don't know entirely what the reason is for that. Is it delay in diagnosis? Possibly. Is it delays in treatment? Possibly. Are there some other factors? All of those things are subject of research, both here in my group at UT Health Austin, as well as other researchers and other institutions across the United States in the world. The treatment of melanoma can sometimes be really complex. It can include dermatologists, it can include surgical oncologists, medical oncologists, radiation oncologists. And therefore, the treatment plans for patients can really be difficult for folks that have limited access. Here at Dell Medical School and UT Health Austin, we've created what's called a multidisciplinary tumor board. We get all of these physicians together in one room or together on Zoom during the pandemic to talk about patients and the care that we deliver them so that we can all be on the same page and really make sure that patients aren't falling through the cracks throughout their entire cancer journey, from treatment and diagnosis all the way to survivorship.
In celebration of Black History Month, licensed Black estheticians and general supporters throughout the nation are helping to raise funds for the Tanya A. Heyman Melanoma Research Fund through Spa Show Media partnered week-long online event, the 2022 National Black Estheticians Week, NBEW, from February 22nd to February 28th. Licensed esthetician, NBEW founder, and Spa Show CEO Tiffany Medwa said that licensed Black estheticians are eager to inform their clients and acquaintances about the importance of skin health and skin cancer awareness. I and many other Black estheticians feel that Dr. Adamson and the Dell Medical School at the University of Texas at Austin's research on melanoma concerning people of color is imperative, said Midwa. That's why we have a keen focus this Black History Month for NBEW on skin care awareness. Dr. Adamson will be speaking about the melanoma research and the Tanya A. Heyman Melanoma Research Fund during the 2022 National Black Estheticians Week on Tuesday, February 22nd at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The University of Texas Austin has created a landing page for the Black History Month fundraiser, where donations received will help Dell Medical School and Dr. Adamson break new ground in melanoma prevention and treatment by identifying and closing gaps in care, as well as enhancing team-based patient-centered care that improves early detection and treatment for melanoma in Central Texas and beyond, accelerating the use of artificial intelligence to address challenges of racial bias and overdiagnosis, developing a tissue bank for melanoma samples to accelerate research, further clinical trials, and improve care, creating a multi-day symposium to combine expertise, share knowledge, and increase innovative collaboration among care providers and national leaders. SkinScript, ASCP, and Sephora have already committed to providing sizable donations to the Tanya A. Heyman Fund. Estheticians are also encouraged to raise donations from their individual community, and the top 5 estheticians who raise the most donations will be awarded gifts from NBEW sponsors. Estheticians and supporters can become ambassadors by signing up for their personal giving link to raise donations, where they can share directly to social media, allowing them to track how many donations have come directly. And so with no further ado, I want to introduce Katina Gilmore, who's going to be introducing Dr. Adamson. Wow, phenomenal research that they are doing. So we welcome Katina Gilmore.
Hello, everyone. Hello, all viewers and everyone who's out there supporting NBEW 22. My name is Katina Gilmore. I'm a licensed registered nurse, licensed esthetician, as well as licensed instructor in the state of Texas, aesthetics instructor. And so, especially since I've been a nurse, has been skin health. So I am honored to introduce Dr. Adamson to the Spa Show NBEW virtual event. And I'm just going to give you some bio on Dr. Adamson. He is a board certified dermatologist and assistant professor in the Department of Internal Medicine. His primary clinical interest is caring for patients at high risk for melanoma of the skin, such as those with many moles, particularly atypical moles, or personal and or family history of melanoma. Dr. Adamson is a proud graduate of Morehouse College, where he received a Bachelor of Science in Biology and French. He later earned a medical degree with honors at Harvard Medical School as part of the Health Sciences and Technology program with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. While in medical school, he spent a year conducting basic science research in immunology at the National Institutes of Health, and later earned a master in public policy at Harvard Kennedy School as a Zuckerman Fellow of Public Leadership. Wow. He completed his internship in internal medicine at the Mount Sinai Hospital, followed by residency training in dermatology at the University of Texas Southwestern in Dallas, where he was recognized with awards for his professionalism, leadership, and community service work. After graduation, he spent 3 years on faculty in the Department of Dermatology at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm so honored and so happy that Dr. Adamson is here with us and ready to share and educate us all about melanoma in the Afro-ethnic community. Welcome, Dr. Adamson.
Okay, thank you so much for that very generous introduction. And I really, really want to thank Spa Show and all of the donors to the research fund. My relationship with you all is really important in, me and my team being able to develop some interventions and advance knowledge and debunk myths related to skin cancer and people with skin of color. And today I plan on, giving a brief a talk on melanoma and skin cancer in general. It's entitled "Skin Cancer and Black People, or People of Color. Would sunscreen have saved Bob Marley?" It's a little provocative title, and I'll explain a bit more what I mean by this as we move forward. So next slide. The only conflict of interest that I have is that I am a member of the American Academy of Dermatology's Skin of Color and Skin Cancer Working Group, where we're trying to come up with recommendations for people of darker skin types related to the prevention of skin cancer. But all the opinions that I'm going to give to you today are my opinions, and they're not the opinions of the American Academy of Dermatology. Next slide. So the two things I want to be very clear: the incidence, meaning how many new cases of skin cancer in people of darker skin types, is much lower than in the white population. But when skin cancer develops, it often is found later, and that is associated with worse clinical outcomes, like needing bigger procedures or even death. And so this is the basic outline of the talk I want to give today. One is I want to define what skin of color means, what the scope of the problem is for the three main cancers. That's basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and melanoma, the most feared of the three. And then I want to talk a little bit about prevention. What can you do to lower your risk potentially of having or developing or having a bad outcome related to that? Next slide. So skin of color, basically what it means is people that are non-Hispanic, white heritage. People with skin of color, they have these distinct cutaneous characteristics and features and perhaps clinical practices, but their diversity makes it really hard to think about skin cancer messaging. Next slide. But as we know, race and ethnicity aren't necessarily the same thing. You could be Latinx and really fair, and you can also be Afro-Latinx and relatively dark. Next slide. And this becomes important in trying to do research, because all of the population-based data that we have categorizing people do it based on race and not based on the amount of melanin that you have in your skin. Next slide. And the risk of you developing skin cancer is directly related to how much melanin you have. The darker you are, the lower your risk. It doesn't reach zero, obviously, but the lower the risk. Next. And a few basic things that you also have to know is that white folks are at way higher risk than those folks of color, and that lower risk is, in part due to melanin. That provides an inherent SPF protection of up to 15. Obviously, that varies on how light or dark you are. And the UV dose that's required to cause redness is 33 times higher in people that identify as Black as white than white. And this has implications for how we think about skin cancer and skin of color. Next. So let's talk about the scope of the problem. And so these are basal cell carcinomas. They're these slow growing cancers that often are on the head and neck. And then people of darker skin types, they usually have pigment in them. And white folks are usually pink in color. And these don't usually tend to harm people. But if you see one of these slowly growing over time, you should suggest to somebody that maybe they should have it checked out by a dermatologist. Next. I want to just point out here that the rate of developing basal cell carcinoma is a lot lower in Black Americans than it is in non-Hispanic white Americans by, almost a factor of 1,000. In fact, this is one of the most common cancers in man. but it doesn't happen to affect folks of color as much. Next slide. And the reasons why people get these vary. They can happen in scars. They can happen perhaps related to the sun, or people are immunosuppressed because they have an organ transplant or have cancer or something like that. But thankfully, they have low risk of actually killing anyone. And these are squamous cell cancers. So this is another type of skin cancer that can affect people and folks of color. And these can develop not only on sites where you get some sun exposure, but they can also happen where the sun doesn't shine, in the groin area, in the mouth, on the mouth, say in the nose, as you see here. And these actually have a chance of spreading if they're caught too late. So it's important to be able to recognize these kind of growths that can happen as well. Next. And just like with basal cell cancers, squamous cell cancers, they are much lower in folks that identify as Black compared to those that are non-Hispanic white. Next. And again, similar risk factors as basal cell cancers. Previous areas of inflammation, people that have albinism, meaning that they lack melanin in their skin for some reason. Light may be UV exposure may be a cause, or being immunosuppressed, like I said before, having an organ transplant or having a history of cancer or something like that. But as I said earlier, squamous cell cancers are often diagnosed much later, and they can actually be harmful. They have the risk of something called metastasis, meaning they could move to other parts of the body and be fatal. And so it's important to also catch these as well. Next. And now let's talk about melanoma, which is the cancer that I spend the most of my time studying. These often appear as dark moles in folks of color. It's often on the palms and soles, if you were to find it, but it also can happen, in the mouth, as well, on the scalp and other places too. And these are important to pick up on, and recommend patients see their dermatologist to make sure everything's okay. And in fact, this is the type of cancer that took Bob Marley away from us. And here too, the incidence rate, meaning the amount of new cases per 100,000 per year, is a lot lower in African Americans than it is in white Americans. Next. And as you can see here, this is on the left is the rate of the diagnosing melanoma. It's gone up tremendously over time in the white population. But as you can see lower down, and with the blue triangles, it's been relatively flat actually in the Black population, as well as other populations of color. And thankfully, mortality has not gone up over time. And this is just a table basically showing your likelihood or your odds, if you're Black versus white, of having late detection. Stage 1 is early stage. Stage 4 is late stage. So like you see here, you're 2.49 times more likely to be diagnosed at stage 4 if you're Black than if you're white. And that has implications for survival. This is a survival curve. Where you want to be is as high as possible, right? And so you can see that red line is the white population. They survive a lot longer than African Americans that develop melanoma, and that's the Black line you see at the bottom over time. Next. But thankfully, one bright star that I think gets overlooked is mortality. This is mortality. The amount of Black people that die each year of melanoma has gone down over time, and it continues to go down with the advent of new treatments. But I would say that access to these new treatments in folks of color is sometimes poor. Next. So now let's talk about prevention, ways to maybe stop the development of melanoma or pick it up early. So I do research on all phases of cancer control. You usually think of ways of controlling cancer or primary prevention, where you try to stop causal factors like UV exposure, secondary prevention, where you try to catch things early at screening, and then tertiary prevention is making sure after diagnosis patients receive high quality care. And I've done research in all of these phases. Next. So let's talk about primary prevention, which aims to prevent injury or disease before it occurs. Next. So high levels of UV exposure to sunlight have clearly been associated with skin cancer. I'm not going to litigate that. Next. The best example is the migration, or the colonial migration, of people from the UK with really light skin to an area of a lot of sun, which is Australia. And next. And if you see this figure right here, the blue bars are the rates of developing melanoma for people that stayed in Scotland versus those that went to Queensland, Australia. And you can see there's a huge increase in the amount of melanoma in this group. Does that tell us about people of color? And I would say no, right? So what has animated some of my research, and some of the research that actually has been supported by and funded by the Brown Skin 2 Foundation, which I'm very grateful and thankful for, and has moved this conversation forward, is this question here. Is UV exposure something that can explain skin cancer in skin of color? Next. So let's start with non-melanoma skin cancer. So that's the basal cell carcinoma and the squamous cell carcinoma. Next. So I have a paper that is unpublished that is going to be coming out in a little while, basically showing, looking at all of the data. We're looking at the association between UV exposure and the development of what's called keratinocyte carcinoma, which is another name for non-melanoma skin cancer, basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma. And what our group found is that there are only 12 studies looking at this. 8 of them showed no association between UV exposure, and 4 of them showed a positive association. Okay, that negative association or no association was for something called phototherapy that we use to treat patients with psoriasis and other disorders, which is good. And the 4 studies that showed a positive association, it was all based on your job description. Did you work outdoors or not? Where did you live, in a sunny place or not? So the evidence wasn't really of high quality. Next. And interestingly, almost all of the studies were in East Asia. No studies had patients of African descent. None. No Black people at all. So we can't really even make this claim or this association between UV exposure and skin cancer, at least for keratinocyte carcinoma, because we haven't really even studied it, right? And there was only one study done in the Latinx population in Chile, and in that study, more than half of the people from the town that had high rates of sun exposure and skin cancer were from Europe. Right. So there's a lot of research, that needs to be done in this area to actually try to see if this is something that we need to change about our behavior. Next. So let's talk about melanoma. Next. Back in 2002, there was a huge study that's really well regarded that looked at all of the risk factors associated with developing melanoma. But the problem is, and they took 57 of the published data papers together, and they basically found that there was an association between sun exposure and melanoma. This is one of the definitive studies to show this. But only 2 of those 57 included Black people, and 1 included Hispanic folks. So it was really hard to, make a decision around melanoma and its association with UV exposure if there are no people of color in any of these studies. Next. So there are more studies that have been done since that analysis. And what my group decided to do is to look at all that data related to melanoma and UV exposure. And we only found 2 studies that showed an association, 1 among Black men and 1 among Hispanic men. Okay, next. Let me take you through a couple of the studies. Here's one large US-based study looking at the biggest cancer registry we have in the United States, and where people were located in the country, high areas of UV exposure versus low. It found no association between melanoma and UV exposure in Black people. Next. Here's another study doing a similar thing and comparing the association among white people too. They found an association between where you lived and if you had high UV light where you lived and your risk of getting melanoma, but they found no such association in Black people, Native American folks, Asian Pacific Islanders, none. Next. Here's another study out of California where they looked at what they called non-white multiracials, which included Latinx folks, Native Americans, Japanese Americans, and the risk factors that weren't associated with melanoma were all these UV associated ones, meaning there was no association between UV factors and melanoma in this multiracial cohort. In another California study, there was no association among folks that identified as Hispanic with early exposure to UV versus them getting melanoma. Next. And so that comes to let's get to sunscreen then. And I've gotten in some let's say interesting discussions on social media about this. There's only one study that looked at the role of sunscreen in melanoma. Right, it was done in Australia. Next, there were no dark-skinned people in the study. It did show that there was a reduction in the amount of melanoma in the group that got sunscreen and put it on every day versus those that were able just to use sunscreen whenever they felt like it. But that difference actually wasn't statistically significant. And there were other issues with the study as well. But important to this conversation, there were no people of darker skin types in the study. Next. So I wrote about this in the Washington Post and then got interviewed by a reporter at the New York Times about this. I thought it wasn't very controversial, but it erupted as something that was, stunning to people. Next. And Al Roker ended up talking about it on Today. Some of his group even called me to get a comment from me. They didn't run my comment on the show. Instead, they brought on a dermatologist who didn't provide any evidence showing the association at all and said she respectfully disagreed. Now, I would say that this is an area of controversy, but the data are at least on my side when it comes to making the argument whether sunscreen should be recommended for prevention of melanoma. It has other benefits, but the prevention of melanoma or skin cancer in Black people, that has not been established. Next. Yet there are a lot of studies out there talking about, Black people need to, learn more about, sun exposure and their risk of cancer. I don't necessarily think that's necessary. I think it's actually a distraction on us trying to figure out what actually causes melanoma in Black people and people of color. Next. And in fact, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, which is the main body that helps decide how doctors recommend preventive services like screening and things like that, actually doesn't even recommend behavioral counseling to people that are of darker skin type. As you can see here, the recommendation is for those 24 years and younger of fair skin types. Next. Yet, the American Academy of Dermatology has photoprotection for skin cancer and skin of color as something that is an important, in the battle. And I would say that we haven't actually established that at all. Next. And so in summary, what I would say is that the amount of cancers in skin of color happen on non-sun exposed areas of the body. And sun protection is probably uncertain in reducing the burden of skin cancer in most patients of color. But I think it's important that we educate our dark skin patients that they can develop a melanoma and what are the worrisome signs to look for. And we need better research into these predisposing factors. Next. And one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is people say that your risk of developing cancer on your palms or soles of your feet, what are called acral melanomas, are different. You're more likely to develop it if you're of color. That the answer to that is actually that's not true. Right? Your risk of developing acral melanomas is the same across all races, as you can see on the figure on the right, with those lines basically being right next to each other. Next. So I'm going to end the talk here talking about screening. Like, should you go to the dermatologist every single year if you're a person of color and don't have any risk factors for skin cancer? Next. So if you think about screening, 5 things have to be true. 1, the disease must be common. As I showed you before, skin cancer is not extremely common in the skin of color. The disease has a preclinical state, and you can catch it early. You can melanoma when it's small. There's effective treatment. Surgery is definitive and curative. And the benefits have to outweigh the harms. I would say where there's still research to be done to figure that out. And, is the test reliable, which is the skin exam by your doctor. Next. I would say that melanoma just isn't common enough to advocate for screening, meaning patients of color going to the dermatologist every single year that don't have any symptoms. It's different if you go to the dermatologist saying, hey, this mole has changed or this mole is new, but it's quite different to go with no complaints at all and say, just look at me. Next. But there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence in the future, and I think it holds a lot of promise. But there's been some issues, I would say, in the development of artificial intelligence to date that I've highlighted in some of my research. Mobile apps for tracking, moles and things like that, and trying to actually even provide diagnoses. Next. And there was even an artificial intelligence tool that was trained on over 100,000 clinical images of melanoma, and it showed basically the accuracy at the same level as a board-certified dermatologist. It had dermatologists in my field really scared that they're going to lose their jobs. But there was something about it that kind of bothered me, and I'm going to get to it in a second. Next. So before I got into AI, artificial intelligence, I actually didn't know very much, about it. But I got an email after this publication that I did about delays in surgery for people with melanoma, where I found folks of color had delays in their definitive surgery for melanoma, and that is, really, not good. And actually, this is another area of my research. We're trying to make sure that patients of color get access to timely treatment care. But this ended up getting picked up by the media. Next, in this Women's Health magazine, and I got reached out to by somebody who called my clinical office. Who, I guess the slide didn't render, but under the slide, there's a picture of a man and his wife. The man, Avery, he reached out to me, and he wanted to know if I knew that these artificial intelligence apps are biased, right? And I was like, tell me more. He's like, none of them are trained on anything of color. You're a Black dermatologist. You study melanoma. Do you have some images that we can, put together so that we can make a more bias-free algorithm? And I said, no, but how about we write about it? Right. And this publication alone is one of my most cited publications, and it has helped influence the way some folks in tech now think about designing these apps related to skin cancer and darker skin types. Next. I don't know if you remember Google Photos recognizing folks as, color as gorillas. Next. This algorithm bias actually caught the eye of this woman, my Joy Borromini. She just got her PhD at MIT. And you see the mask in her right hand? The only way she could interact with the artificial intelligence facial recognition tool in graduate school was to actually wear a white mask because the computer did not recognize her face. Next. And there was this great study now looking at facial recognition of genders across skin types, and this technology only misgendered white men 1% of the time, and light-skinned women 7% of the time. Next. But in darker skinned folks, especially dark-skinned women, they were misgendered 35% of the time. Next. So back to this data set, this algorithm that was just as good as a dermatologist in finding melanoma. It had no folks of colors moles in it at all. So if this app were to be used in the wild on folks or in the real world, could potentially lead to worse outcomes by misdiagnosing or underdiagnosing, overdiagnosing melanomas in darker skin types. Next. And as a reminder, survival rates are lower for folks of color because of the later stage diagnosis. Next. And so there are problems with these algorithms. They're only as good as the inputs that put in them. And without these representative inputs, you could potentially worsen healthcare disparities. And because we're on the forefront of this right now, we have a chance of intervening before this disparity widens. Next. And there are various different ways we could try to mitigate this. We could oversample lesions and skin of color. We could design a separate algorithm, which feels segregation in that way feels a little less ideal. And then there's potentially digital solutions. And I've been in conversations with people in Silicon Valley about some of these issues as well. Next. And so I don't think that we should be screening folks of color, meaning going to the dermatologist with no complaints. It's in the same way we would not recommend men get mammography, even though men also develop breast cancer. But I think thoughtfully executed AI might be an important contribution. And I think the focus needs to be on awareness and trying to figure out why it is that folks of color get certain skin cancers. Next. So I want to thank all of my funders. I want to thank you, the audience, for listening to me. I hope this was somewhat informative, and I really, truly appreciate and honored that you would support this important research from my group. And I will take any questions.
Wow, doctor, I think you have everybody. I think I'm shocked. And this is coming from myself being, when I was an athlete for track and field. I don't know why that's coming up. Sorry about that. For years. And then I was also a coach for years. And it was interesting. I would have my coach who was non-Black to tell me, you sure you don't want any sunscreen? And even my mom who would say, you want any sunscreen? Then I would have my other parent on the other side say, well, what do you really need sunscreen for as long as you have the visor on? And then what you're really telling us is that there still needs to be more research to be done on all of this. We got to give you more money. $2,500 is not enough, essentially is what you're saying. It's almost as if this is such a green field that more and more research needs to be done. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's very true. And I think it also speaks to some of the structural inequalities in research as well, where we've basically taken the causes of melanoma in one population, i.e. the white population, and they just assumed that it was, without doing all of the studies, and assumes that it's the same in the populations of darker skin types. And I think it is, like you said, a green field ripe for research, and I think it's important because we should be able to have evidence-based recommendations for people of all colors.
And so just to let people know, we are now in our Q&A phase. And so if you do have questions that you want to ask the great doctor, because he's got a lot of research on his hands, we've got to help him raise some money, y'all. I'm just saying, because this is a new area. And I'm going to let Tiffany ask a question while we put that number on the screen. But if you are at the chat, that number is 559-242-6788. Again, 559-242-6788. We're going to put that on the screen so that you can ask your question. Please text your question and your name, as well as if you want to be on live or not, meaning we'll send you the text. Hopefully you're on a mobile device or on a desktop. If you're in a building, a business, you might be firewalled. Just want to warn you up front. Might have better success using your mobile device. And you can text us. I'm in California, not Texas, but you can text us so that we can give the doctor these questions. Tiffany, I'm going to let you ask the question while I put that number on the screen.
Sure, Dr. Ade. Thank you so much for that great presentation, all the research that you've done. Besides Brown Skin 2, we know Tereska's Foundation is doing a lot in the background with bringing more awareness. Are there any other client advocacy groups or anything that we can do as, I should say, patient advocacy groups? And are there any is there anything else that we can do as patients around being proactive, not just waiting yearly to, potentially get a checkup, but are there anything, are there things that we can do around being proactive around lifestyle and just working with our physicians?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the American Academy of Dermatology, of which I'm a member, they have, in response, I think, to a lot of calls recently from researchers like myself, medical students, patients, etc., have made a concerted effort to improve their educational and awareness campaigns around conditions, including skin cancer in darker skin types. So they have, they have a website, educational series, etc., that are a great resource. The Skin Cancer Foundation is also another one. The Melanoma Research Alliance as well, which I've worked with on some of these questions, as well. And they have actually put together grant funding and granting mechanisms to move forward some of this research. And so those are, different organizations that have been involved in this area. And it has grown, and I would say, that's thankful to Tereska's foundation supporting me and helping me get some of my research done and raising this platform as an issue. And certainly talking with you all today also is important in that mission as well.
Yeah, and speaking of, because we have to try to convince the public how important this is, and they say, oh, well, it's only a small percentage. We don't have to worry about that. It's only like 1 or 2%. But in actuality, it seems like the deaths are higher. Can you expand a little bit more on that, why it's imperative that we should be paying attention?
If you catch melanoma early, you potentially have a higher chance of surviving it, right? And I would say that through education, it's possible, especially in a population that, may be less aware, like Black population, that you could potentially save some lives that way. And so I think that's why it's really important. And in fact, I think one of the reasons why knowledge is so much lower in populations of color related to their risk of developing melanoma or skin cancers is because the risk is low. Furthermore, you then don't have, say, a father or a grandfather or a cousin or somebody in your immediate orbit that may have been affected, right? So some of that is, I think, the reason why we just know about it a little less. And I think if we change that, perhaps we can, save some people.
And we do have a question. I don't know, they said either or, but yeah, next time tell me like live or no live. It makes it easier that way. So I guess I'll just ask the question that has come to us right now. And that question is, when will your work be published? And where will it be where we can find it, the public?
So by embargo, I can't tell you where it's going to be published and exactly when, but I would say that within the next couple months, you'll see it. Now, the study that I did related to melanoma, we published that about a year ago.
Great to know. Okay, and Tiffany, I'm going to swing it back to you. We're just ping-ponging back and forth.
Yeah, and what kind of support do you need, Dr. Ade, from the community, from us? I know dollars are very important. What are the primary ways that we can support your research?
By talking about it, interacting, with it, if it makes its way into the media or social media, tweeting about it, posting about it on Instagram. Just I think talking about it is an effective way of raising awareness. And the other thing I would say, which maybe I didn't emphasize enough, is that as estheticians, you all look at skin all the time in the same way that I do, and to be aware of changing moles or things that look maybe out of the ordinary, or asking your clients, has this been here for a while? Has it grown? Are there any symptoms associated with it? I think as advocates for your clients could be one really impactful way. That's obviously beyond my research, but I think that's even more important.
Speaking of that, a person should go and get seen. Do they go to a dermatologist? Do they go to a medical doctor? Just wanted to clarify that, as I might it might seem just, that might seem like I don't know, not the question to ask, but I guess I'm asking for the person like me who's on the outside and just wants the clarity on that. And so if you could expand on that, please.
Yeah, I think that was a perfectly legitimate question, especially with how just siloed and fractured our healthcare system can be. I would say preferably a board certified dermatologist, but if the quickest way you can get in is to see a general practitioner, you can also start there as well. But I would say lean on dermatologist, but if you want, a general practitioner to start.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Katina is not on anymore, I guess.
Okay. I see her. She's there.
Okay, I think Katina, she would be excellent to chime in because as the doctor spoke to, us being estheticians, and especially with Katina, with her being also a registered nurse, she's definitely voiced the fact that because we as estheticians are hands-on, we oftentimes are the first ones who see something suspicious on our clients and, ask further questions, and that can get the conversation going. So, I'd like to throw the...
All right, Katina, we're going straight to you. Right on.
Hi. So yes, okay, Adamson, I wanted to know what are your thoughts? One, I have a two-part question. As patients, as a patient, if we're seeing suspicious lesions, changes in color, but a lot of us estheticians, a lot of the Black community, me as a registered nurse, I'm aware that many times when we go to the doctors and we have these, minor skin changes or just kind of bothers us, we find that a lot of physicians, dermatologists, they kind of, I don't want to say brush it off, but a lot of times we find that our concerns are not taken as seriously. So what type of questions do you suggest a patient ask the dermatologist? Do you suggest that patients keep like pictures, like a log of photographs that, shows their changes of their skin? Like what? So I experienced that before. I'm going to a doctor, voicing my concerns about something that was changing on my body, and it kind of got brushed off. And then it took 6 or 7 years for me to get an actual diagnosis, which I tried to get, previously. So what questions do you suggest patients ask their doctors when it comes to specifically seeing these different changes in like lesions and stuff on their bodies, on their skin?
First, I would say if there is a doctor that you feel is brushing off your concerns, consider changing physicians. I don't think that there's room in the exam in the exam room for patients to feel like their concerns or their interests are not met. Right? That's the reason why you're going to them. One question that if you feel as though perhaps you're being brushed off is, why don't you find this concerning? Okay, in your experience, what about this tells you that this is not concerning? Because to me, it is. And obviously, if you have photos of something changing over time, that is really helpful, not only for yourself, but also for your physician. There have been a number of times where by the time a patient got to me, because there's only one snapshot in time that you get in that exam room, and you don't necessarily see things as they develop, beforehand. And so photography definitely, dermatologists were very visual people, something that is very important.
Next part of my question. So since I was looking at some old posts regarding acral litiginous melanoma that I posted back in 2013 and 2016 as it relates to, Bob Marley, because that's where when we talk about skin cancers of melanomas, many of us are familiar with Bob Marley and how he was diagnosed. So that is something that I believe estheticians and nurses and anybody in general should read up on that. Like you said, tweet posted on social media. I think you answered the question because Tiffany was asking in what ways estheticians, like what ways we can help get this information out there. But if you have any more to add to that, but I think you did answer that question with Tiffany.
But I think it's important that you reiterated that I can only do this really with the help of many, right? And estheticians are in a great position to be advocates for their clients, and I hope especially estheticians of color can educate themselves on skin cancer, what the signs are, so that they can potentially save somebody's life.
Wow. My goodness, I'm looking at all the information. I've been jotting down notes, Tiffany. I know you have, and I'm sure Katina has, and we were going all throughout the social media because this is a hot topic. I feel like it's not over yet. And I think we just had one last question, and then we'll close out with those final thoughts. But I wanted to make sure, Katina, did you get to finish your thought? Was there anything else you wanted to add to that? Okay, let's let you finish your thought, and then we'll let that last question. Go right ahead.
Oh, no, I did finish
I'm sorry. My bad.
I did finish my thought. I had a question that was in my mind, but I know this could take I don't want to prolong the your session. And it was really about laser. Mm-hmm. A lot of estheticians, there are a lot of the practice of laser hair removal is kind of exploding, right? It's becoming more popular. And through my readings one time, I come across several articles saying that laser hair removal therapy may trigger melanomas or the spread of melanomas in some people. And I wanted to know if you wanted to talk about that. And if not, that's fine. Because like I said, I know our time is limited. But that was just a thought that I had in the back of my mind that I wanted to ask. But I wanted to say that as for some other time. But other than that, I am so glad, Dr. Adamson, that you've been on and sharing your information, sharing this very important topic today.
Thank you. And to quickly respond to your question, I'm not aware of that association, laser hair removal and melanoma. I would say that it's probably highly unlikely, but I would have to read what source that comes from. I have never heard of it before, and all I do is read and write about melanoma.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And I know there was that one last question, and we don't have time to ask it on live, but it was Sarah Land who said, how can we raise awareness about your work specifically? And I know that one way is Spa Show. Tiffany, you might want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. They can go straight to Spa Show's website and look at the news article that we have just on there, and it'll connect you right to Doctor, right? Tiffany, did you want to follow up with any final thoughts?
Yeah, so Julia, Miss Humble Julia, she did a phenomenal, very in-depth article and video, kind of as a supplement to Dr. Ade's work, mentioning him as a critical component in the research. So on spashow.com, under the news tab, Julia has her very in-depth article. There is the video component that you can watch, and also you can read the detailed article there. And then we are, again, raising donations for the Tanya A. Heyman Fund, which is through the Dell Medical University of Austin.
This is what it looks like.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Under the news tab, and under our press release, which is under our news tab too, there are links directly to the Horn Raiser where we can all raise donations. Again, SkinScript was very gracious in donating $2,500. Our goal is to raise $10,000. We really hope that we can exceed that. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly on Spa Show. The email is hey@spashow.com. And on our Instagram page, which is spashow.media, we have links to the Horn Raiser donation page as well.
And I guess we'll let the doctor have any final thoughts and the last word. You get the last say, Doctor.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you. I'm grateful
No, thank you.
that you gave me this opportunity. And I hope that we can work together to improve the health of the skin for all people.
Thank you again, Dr. Adamson. The information you had was phenomenal. It's something that we will continue as a journalist. I'll make sure I keep pushing it out there. Tiffany's going to keep pushing it out there. We're going to push it on our AMPTV network. We thank you for taking out your time because I know we had a late start, but that's okay, as long as you were here, because the information is so, so valuable. And so with that, we're not even closing day one. We're just taking a small break, folks, but you want to come back and join us at 3 o'clock. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm saying that right. Am I on there? Am I saying that right, Tiffany? Yeah, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Oh, I think she just froze up. There you are.
Let me pull up this.
No, I'm sorry. Is it 6 o'clock? I want to make sure I have the right.
So yes. Our next speaker is Tereska James, who is the sister of Tanya A. Heyman, and she speaks at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 3 p.m. your time, Julia.
Got it. So that's why I'm trying to get this time thing down, y'all. I'm trying.
We're at our Central Time. So we're Central Time. So it's 5 o'clock Central Time. So it's all these conversions.
Yeah, I get all messed up because my family lives in El Paso, Texas. My nieces went to Austin, so I usually had to switch that over. And then I'm in California. And then I, of course, got folks on the East Coast. I'm trying to get that down. But either way, we're going to be back at 6 o'clock then. Right. Okay. So 6 o'clock.
So 6 o'clock, we have Tereska James, the founder of Brown Skin 2, who has been paramount in the research and getting the word out about melanoma. Her sister, again, was Tanya A. Heyman. So we definitely want to honor her legacy. And then at 7 p.m., we have Lisa Van Bakkern. And I wanted to show my binder I got when I first met Lisa. She had a free workshop, with a free skincare workshop in LA.
What?
Over 5 years ago, I should say. It's been quite a while. But I've hung on to this. I studied this.
You are a good student, Tiffany.
Research, and so this was my very first binder. This was the second time I met Lisa at a workshop that she gave in LA, and I love this. I cherish this. It's just a great resource. I'm going to show it again this evening too.
Well, you're a good student too, because you kept that binder, so you're going to be a good example for. And then, did you want to talk about the one more speaker that's going to be coming up this afternoon?
Yes, and then we will round out the evening with Pamela Springer, the master esthetician. She is the owner of Global Skin Solutions. I call her my esthetician mama. She is just a phenomenal woman, just an expert, just charismatic. And her topic is 5 strategies for treating hyperpigmentation. And she will be on at 8 p.m. She is just a rock star esthetician, very passionate about skincare, especially skin of color, and really has a good, thorough understanding for how to treat it and how to deal with hyperpigmentation.
And thank you again for joining us. Those of you who gave us your questions online, you are way cool peoples. Thank you so much. And join us this evening then, afternoon and evening. We'd love for you to chime in and ask your questions. We'll put you on live next time we have more time, and we're going to be on time. Don't worry. We'll be there. And we'll be back, folks.